Imagine walking into a crowded bar with friends for a night of celebration, and then vanishing, not outside on the street, not in a taxi, not caught leaving by the dozens of security cameras surrounding the exits, but vanishing completely, as if the earth swallowed you whole. This isn't a movie plot. It happened in 2006, in Columbus, Ohio, to a 27-year-old medical student named Brian Shaffer. And to this day, nearly 2 decades later, no one knows where he went or how he disappeared in a bar that had only one main entrance. Before we begin unraveling this chilling case, tell us where in the world you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments. I love seeing how far these mysteries reach. And if you enjoy true crime stories that pull you in and keep you hooked until the very last second, make sure you subscribe. Your support helps this channel get closer to our goal of 100,000 subscribers. Brian Shaffer wasn't just another college student. He was a second-year medical student at Ohio State University, specializing in medicine with dreams of one day becoming a doctor. Friends described him as intelligent, charming, and adventurous, the kind of person who loved music, traveling, and living life to the fullest. But just 3 weeks before his disappearance, Brian's world was shaken. His mother, Renee, passed away from cancer. The grief hit him hard, though he didn't always show it. Friends said he seemed normal, but there was an undercurrent of sadness. Still, Brian had plans. He was dating a fellow medical student, Alexis Wagoner, and the two were planning a getaway to Miami during spring break. It was supposed to be a chance for him to heal, to reset. But he would never make it to that trip. It was the beginning of spring break. On the evening of March 31st, Brian met his father, Randy Shaffer, for dinner. They ate, talked, and Randy recalled later that his son seemed tired, exhausted from studying, were his words. Later that night, Brian decided to blow off some steam with his close friend, William Clint Florence. Their destination? The Ugly Tuna Saloon, a popular bar near campus known for live music and cheap drinks. Here's where the mystery begins. The Ugly Tuna wasn't a large sprawling club with countless exits. It sat on the second floor of a building in Columbus's South Campus Gateway, accessible primarily by a single escalator leading up from street level. Outside, surveillance cameras were installed, capturing anyone coming in or going out. When Brian and Clint arrived, they began what most students do during spring break bar hopping. They had a few drinks, met up with another friend, Meredith Reed, and returned to the Ugly Tuna around 1:15 a.m. The last known footage of Brian Shaffer comes from those security cameras. On the grainy footage, Brian is seen around 1:55 a.m., standing outside the Ugly Tuna with Clint and Meredith. He appears to briefly speak with 2 young women. Then, at around 2 a.m., he is seen re-entering the bar's main entrance. And that's it. That is the last confirmed sighting of Brian Shaffer. No footage ever showed him leaving. Not by the escalator, not by the back service door, not by any other possible exit. It's as if he simply vanished inside the bar. When Alexis, his girlfriend, couldn't reach him the next day, she wasn't immediately alarmed. After all, it was spring break. Maybe he was resting, maybe he was busy. But when hours turned into a full day with no calls or texts back, she grew worried. By Monday, when Brian failed to board his flight to Miami with Alexis, a trip he had been looking forward to, panic set in. Alexis began calling his phone repeatedly, only to hear it go straight to voicemail. For days, she kept trying. Then something strange happened. On September 8, 2006, months after his disappearance, Brian's phone suddenly rang. Not once, but multiple times. Alexis described the moment as surreal, hearing the ring instead of it going directly to voicemail. Phone records later traced the signal to a cell tower near Hilliard, Ohio, about 14 miles from Columbus. But Verizon and the police explained this away as a likely glitch in the system, not proof that Brian was alive. To this day, no definitive explanation for that phone activity has been given. Brian's father Randy never stopped searching for his son. He posted flyers, worked with police, and gave countless interviews pleading for information. Tragically, in 2008, Randy himself died in a freak accident. A tree fell on him during a windstorm. At his funeral, mourners left notes for Brian in Randy's casket, in case Brian was still out there somewhere. The disappearance quickly gained national attention. How does someone vanish from a bar with cameras pointed at every exit? How can there be no trace, no credit card use, no confirmed sightings, no body? Before we move into the theories, I want to know your thoughts. How does someone disappear without ever being caught leaving? Do you think Brian was murdered, or did he plan his own escape? Let me know in the comments. I'll be reading through them all. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to support this channel. Every single one of you brings us closer to shining a light on more unsolved mysteries like this one. Theory 1. The most disturbing possibility is that Brian was murdered inside the Ugly Tuna Saloon. On the surface, this sounds impossible. The bar wasn't huge, and investigators conducted multiple searches, even using cadaver dogs. No blood, no signs of violence, no evidence of a struggle. But skeptics point out that bars can be messy places. Music is loud, drinks spill, people bump into each other. Could someone have attacked Brian without anyone realizing it? The biggest hurdle for this theory? If Brian was killed inside, how was his body removed without cameras catching it? Every exit was covered by surveillance. Unless he was somehow hidden and carried out in a way that escaped detection, this theory doesn't fully add up. Theory 2. Some believe Brian chose to walk away from his life. Think about it. He had just lost his mother, he was exhausted from medical school, and people close to him said he sometimes daydreamed about running away to start fresh. He even loved Jimmy Buffett, and friends joked that he might have gone to live out a beach bum fantasy in the tropics. But here's the problem: Brian didn't leave behind just stress. He left behind a father who adored him, a girlfriend who thought he was about to propose, and a medical career he had worked tirelessly to build. And not a single bank card, credit card, or social security number linked to him has surfaced since April 2006. If he wanted to disappear, he did it with a level of planning and precision that feels almost impossible. Theory 3. Some argue Brian did leave the bar, just not through the front. At the time of his disappearance, the building was under construction. There may have been a service exit or construction door that wasn't fully covered by cameras. If Brian wandered through it, perhaps intoxicated or disoriented, he could have stumbled into a dangerous situation. The grim extension of this theory is that he fell into a hole, a sight pit, or some part of the construction zone where his body was never found. It's a haunting possibility, one that suggests his disappearance wasn't murder, but tragic accident. But when police and workers checked, they found nothing. And after all these years, wouldn't something have turned up? Theory 4. This is where suspicion gets personal. Remember Brian's friend, Clint Florence? He was with Brian at the Ugly Tuna that night. Police asked him to take a lie detector test. Clint refused. Why? His lawyer argued that he had already given a full statement and didn't owe police more. But that refusal has haunted this case. Brian's family openly suggested that Clint might know more than he let on. Meredith, the other friend with them that night, did take a polygraph and passed. Clint, however, distanced himself from the case and never spoke to media again. To this day, some believe he holds the missing piece. Theory 5. Some internet sleuths tie Brian's case to the controversial theory of the smiley face killers, an alleged group of killers responsible for drowning dozens of young men across the U.S. under mysterious circumstances. Brian's case has similarities. He was a young athletic man who vanished near water. But there's no hard evidence linking him to this theory, and most experts dismiss it as far-fetched. Still, it lingers in the shadows of online discussions. Remember that phone call months later, the one that rang through and pinged a tower in Hilliard? Some say this was just a technical glitch. Others see it as proof that Brian may have still been alive. If he really vanished voluntarily, was he hiding out near Columbus? Or was someone else in possession of his phone? No official answers have ever been given. Brian's disappearance destroyed his family. His younger brother, Derek Shaffer, married without him there. His father Randy died still searching. His girlfriend Alexis called his phone for months, hoping he'd answer. She once said, "I'll never stop believing he's alive." The pain of not knowing, of having no closure, is what makes this case so haunting. Despite extensive searches, interrogations, and even national coverage on shows like America's Most Wanted, police have never named an official suspect. The case remains open, but cold. Detectives admit they are baffled. How does someone vanish on camera without leaving? To this day, it's one of Columbus's most enduring mysteries. What do you think so far? Which theory feels most convincing to you? Did Brian slip out a hidden exit, or did someone close to him know more than they revealed? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to see which way you lean. Brian Shaffer's disappearance taps into a primal fear, the fear of losing someone without explanation. A person walking into a space surrounded by people, music, and cameras, and simply never walking out. It makes us question, how safe are we really, if someone can vanish in front of witnesses and technology and never be found? Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Help us reach 100,000 subscribers. It means more cases uncovered, more awareness spread, and maybe, just maybe, more answers for families still waiting. The last confirmed footage of Brian was around 1:55 a.m., outside the Ugly Tuna Saloon. He was seen briefly chatting with two women, before heading back inside. Here's the catch: multiple witnesses gave conflicting reports about what happened next. Some claimed they saw Brian leave. Others swore he was still inside when the lights came up at 2 a.m. How can that be? The cameras were supposed to track everyone leaving. Either witnesses misremembered, or Brian left in a way the cameras didn't catch. Let's talk about those cameras. The surveillance system at the Ugly Tuna had one critical flaw: a blind spot near the escalator leading to the bar entrance. Some believe Brian used this blind spot to slip out unnoticed. But even if that's true, he would have had to pass other cameras in the building, yet none captured him. It's as if he walked into a perfect storm of technical glitches, vanishing at the exact moment no camera had eyes on him. Coincidence? Maybe. But the odds are chilling. Here's where things get even creepier. Just 2 weeks after Brian vanished, another young man, William Ty Hedgepeth, disappeared in Columbus. His body was later found in the Olentangy River. Now, police have never linked the two cases. But locals still talk about it. Two young men, both students, vanishing within miles of each other in the same month? For some, it's too much to ignore. And it raises the question, was Brian's case part of a pattern Columbus didn't want to admit? Remember Clint Florence, the friend who refused the polygraph? His story has been picked apart for years. Some say Clint downplayed how drunk Brian was. Others claim Clint left details out of his original statement. Was it to protect himself from suspicion, or was he genuinely just tired of the constant questioning? Meanwhile, Meredith Reed, the friend who drove them, has remained consistent. She took a lie detector test and passed. But the divide between Clint's silence and Meredith's cooperation has fueled speculation for almost 2 decades. For years, rumors swirled that Brian might still be alive. Some claim to have spotted him in exotic locations, from Tijuana, Mexico, to a beachside bar in the Caribbean. Theories like these are fueled by Brian's love of travel, music, and escape. But every alleged sighting has collapsed under scrutiny. No photos, no confirmed identities. Just whispers that keep hope alive, but rarely hold water. Brian's father, Randy, never gave up searching. He once said he felt his son was alive, but in trouble. Tragically, Randy died in a freak accident in 2008, crushed by a falling branch during a windstorm. At his funeral, mourners left notes in a casket for Brian, begging him to come home if he was out there. It's one of the most heart-wrenching details in this story, a father's love carried to the very end, without answers. If this case has you asking more questions than it answers, hit that like button and subscribe to support this channel. Every single one of you brings us closer to shining a light on more unsolved mysteries like this one. Investigators combed through Brian's online activity. No emails, no unusual searches, no hidden accounts. But here's something strange. Brian's apartment showed no sign of packing or preparation. His car was still in its spot. His credit cards were untouched. If he planned an escape, he left with nothing, no wallet, no ID, no money. And remember Alexis, the girlfriend? She called his phone every night. Months later, that eerie moment when it rang once, then went dead, was the only digital signal ever picked up. To this day, no one knows if it was a glitch or a ghostly echo. Brian wasn't the first medical student to vanish under bizarre circumstances. Around the same time, disappearances of young men cropped up in cities across the Midwest, often involving alcohol, late-night bars, and vanished camera footage. Some online sleuths argue these cases fit into a wider chilling pattern. Others warn it's just coincidence. But in a world where coincidences sometimes hide truths, you can see why people still debate it. 17 years later, Brian Shaffer's case still captivates true crime followers worldwide. Why? Because unlike so many cases, there's no satisfying ending. No body. No confession. No trail. Just a smiling face, captured on grainy surveillance, waving to friends in a crowded bar, and then gone forever. It's a story that forces us to stare into the unknown, and admit that sometimes the most terrifying mysteries aren't in dark alleys or back roads, but in plain sight. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss chilling stories that deserve to be heard. And remember, sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones with no ending. After all the searching, all the press coverage, and all the internet sleuthing, the case still leaves us with questions that feel like riddles with missing pieces. How could Brian slip past multiple surveillance cameras without a trace? If he ran away to start a new life, why leave behind everything? His car, his wallet, his family, his future. Who would want to harm him, and why, in a crowded public bar? And what explains that eerie moment when his phone rang months later, only to go silent forever? Each question feels like it should have an answer. But every answer collapses into another dead end. The voluntary disappearance. Some believe Brian staged his vanishing, weighed down by grief over his mother's death, and simply walked away to live anonymously. But how could a man with no passport, no money, and no digital trail vanish completely in 2006, an era where footprints are everywhere? Was it a foul play inside the bar? Others suspect Brian never left the ugly tune alive. Did an altercation turn deadly? Was he hidden, covered up, and removed later? It's far-fetched, but some insist it's the only way to explain the missing footage. The smiley face killer theory. This controversial idea suggests a network of killers targets young men across the Midwest, often near water. Brian's case is sometimes linked, but with no body and no physical evidence, it remains only a chilling possibility. Was it an accident no one saw? Some argue Brian may have fallen or been injured in a way that was never discovered. But in a citywide search involving rivers, sewers, and abandoned buildings, nothing ever surfaced. Every theory gives us something to hold on to, but none deliver closure. For Brian's family, the weight has been unbearable. His girlfriend Alexis never stopped calling his phone, clinging to hope until the line went dead. His father Randy searched until his final breath, leaving this world without answers. And for his brother Derek, the pain of not knowing has become the hardest part. Closure, even if it were tragic, would at least bring peace. But the silence? The silence is its own form of torment. If this story has hit you as deeply as it has me, take a second to like this video. It tells YouTube that Brian's story matters. And if you haven't already, subscribe and join us. We're building a community that refuses to let stories like this disappear into the dark. Brian Shaffer's case isn't just an unsolved disappearance, it's a mirror reflecting our deepest fears. That someone we love could vanish in plain sight. That technology, police, and even endless attention still can't guarantee answers. That sometimes, the truth doesn't come, no matter how badly we need it. His smiling face on that grainy camera footage has become a haunting symbol, a reminder that not every mystery has a resolution, and not every story has an ending. So what really happened to Brian Shaffer? Did he slip away to start over? Did a stranger, or someone he trusted, silence him forever? Or did he meet with an accident so strange it left no trace? No matter how you answer, one fact remains: Brian's case is one of the most haunting modern mysteries. A man who went out for drinks with friends and never came home. And until the day we know the truth, the question will keep echoing: how can someone vanish into thin air? Thank you for following us through this story. Please share this video. The more people who hear it, the greater the chance that someday, answers may come. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We're pushing toward 10,000 subscribers, and your support keeps these stories alive, giving a voice to those who can no longer speak for themselves. Because forgetting? That's the one crime we can't allow.